Good boy, Tucker.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
Work smarter where you want.
Consistency is key.
And remember, if it's not in Redtail, it never happened.
This is learning at its most fun. Alrighty, welcome everybody to another continuing education webinar. This is one of our how to handle continuing education webinars, and this is all focused on handling canceled appointments. Now, our how to handle series are a little bit different than our tool related series, our essentials series, if you will, in that they take a number of different tools and strategies from the CRM and put them all together into one of many solutions on how to handle a certain situation in your office. So obviously today we are talking about canceled appointments. It happens all the time, right? It happens all the time in our database. People cancel, right? Your office takes the time to schedule a client appointment just to have them cancel, just to have them no-show, whatever have you. Rather than deleting activities or adjusting activities or things like that, we have a few recommendations for tracking those cancellations. And by using a cancellation process, offices such as yourself are going to be able to look back and see where the issues may be coming from. Is it your process that's causing the issue? Is you just have a few frequent offenders who just are unable to keep meetings, whatever have you? We have a couple of ways to handle canceled appointments, and I am going to jump into the CRM here and jump over and start at the Today page as always. But again, what I'm going to talk about today is not etched in stone. This is not the be-all, end-all way to handle canceled appointments. This is what we have found to be one of the most effective ways to handle canceled appointments, by not only recognizing the canceled appointment, recording that cancellation, but giving us the ability to report on those cancellations and look back at those cancellations in the future, to look back and track what we're doing and what we're having. Before we even talk about a meeting getting canceled, though, we're going to go back to customization. Customization is key for a lot of different things, especially at the end of this entire process when you're talking about tracking items. Customization and the fields that are in your database are going to be probably the most valuable thing that you can apply. And when it comes to canceled appointments, the things that you're going to want to customize are going to have to do with your activities and notes. So as always, and I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit, give us a little bit of a bigger view there. But as always, when we are doing customization, and we have plenty of other additional webinars on customization and best practices, but I'm going to go up to my name up in the top right-hand corner here, and I'm going to click on Manage Your Account. And again, for any customization, you're going to want to go down to admins only down here at the bottom. Shocker, only admins can see this menu. If you are not an admin, then you will not even see this menu at all. Admins only are able to go in and manage database lists. Now, again, customization, building your foundation, this is one of the most important topics that we talk about consistently. For this particular topic, though, we are focusing right here, activities and notes on the right-hand side. We got so many different database lists that we can customize here, but activities and notes are where we are going to focus on because we're talking about canceled appointments, and that has to do with history. So first we have our activity types, and the design of activity types is to tell you what type, shocker, activity this is. An activity is something that goes on the Redtail calendar. And it is up to you in the activity types to designate what those things actually are. Are they phone calls? Are they appointments? Are they tasks? Are they initial consultations? Are they client reviews? Are they client lunches? Are they personal items? Whatever they may be, whatever is important to you, you can go ahead and you can put on this activity types list. Now, obviously, we're going to be dealing with things like client reviews, client meetings, client lunches, and appointments, those types of things that could eventually be canceled. But this is not where we want to make the customization to actually tag something as canceled. That is going to be in categories right here. Now, you'll notice activity types starts with the word activity. That means those are exclusive to calendar activities. Categories are more general. They can be applied to both activities and notes, okay? And that's why we have a little bit longer of a list. If activity types designate what type of activity that is, then the category is going to designate in what regards. In what is this phone call in regards to? What is this client lunch in regards to? Some of them are going to be applicable to activities better than notes and vice versa. But for this particular topic, we highly recommend creating a category right there that says canceled / no-show. As a matter of fact, you could even add multiple categories based on what you want to report on. That's the most important thing here, is that we have sample database lists. You can actually go to our help desk and do a search for sample database lists. You can call our support team if you want a list of sample, just again, white bread, generic database lists to give you an idea of what you might want to track. But ultimately, these database lists are up to you. They're up to you and what you want to track, what you want to record, so that you can look back on it later on. These are all designed to help with organization. So we have one here that says canceled no-show, but we could create multiple different categories, again, based on what we want to here. So let's see, what do we have here? We have one for rescheduled. That's a good one that we could have as well. Consider adding multiple categories based on what's reported on, rather than just canceled / no-show that we have up here at the top. Rather than both of those, you could create a category for just canceled. You could create a category for just no-show, and you can create a category for rescheduled. Those, in my opinion, are the three most common ones that you should be recording. Mostly because, again, there's a difference between a cancellation, a reschedule, and a no-show. A cancellation at least has, the wherewithal to call ahead and cancel. A reschedule at least has the wherewithal to reschedule, and a no-show just straight up ain't showing up, okay? So definitely check out those particular categories when you're filling those out. Check those out and see what you can build out. See what you want to build out, okay? So now let's say the meeting's canceled. Let's go to our calendar here, and let's look for what kind of meetings we have going on here. I want to make sure I want to make sure I'm definitely selected. I'm going to select everybody just to see what type of meetings we have here, and I'm going to go to today. So what do we have going on here today? You know what? Let's pretend that let's pretend that you didn't see me swipe that activity over, all right? Let's say Steve Rogers had to cancel on us, okay? Now, again, what I'm about to show you is not concrete. It's not what I would call gospel, but it is one way in which we suggest to handle it. So the first thing I want to do is I want to open up this activity here. I want to go and I want to put in a linked note. I want to actually designate somewhere that Steve had to cancel. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to add a linked note. I'm going to say Steve called in and had to cancel his office visit. Asked us to reach out next week to reschedule. Whatever, again, this could happen a number of different ways. You could have a note template already built in here for a canceled appointment. All right. Now, we're not going to get into note templates and activity templates today. Suffice it to say, you can build note and activity templates. You could have a canceled no-show note template that you can select and fill this detail out. I would also recommend picking this category. This category, again, is why we went in and customized these items here. There's that canceled no-show that I talked about. We can select that and we can add that note. Now, again, what's nice about that is that if I go to Steve Rogers' record and I look at his latest notes, that note is date, timestamped, entered into his record as a canceled no-show, and it is connected to that activity. So if I were to click on that, it's going to reopen up that activity for me. Now, another thing you can do is you can save and clone this activity. What that's going to do is it's going to take this activity that I have here, it's going to save it, and it's going to clone it, meaning it is going to give me a new activity for me to work with. If I go back to Steve's record here, you'll see in his activities, he now has 2 Steve in office visits, okay? And you'll notice that for the most part, they are identical. They have the attendees, they have the client meetings, they have things like that. You can actually see when they were created. If I go back to the other activity and I click on that, you'll see that again, pretty identical here. This one, however, was one that was just created. Okay, so when I save and clone that activity, I can change the category of this cloned activity to canceled no-show. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to record this. Okay, I'm going to save and complete this activity. This is going to retain the original appointment time. It's going to record that it was canceled. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save and complete this activity. I'm going to save it. I'm going to get it done. And we have that previous activity already done. It's already there. At which point, I can take this activity and I can basically put it to something as pending. It's already a pending item. I can reschedule it if I want. I can even change it to an all-day activity. That's one of the things that I would change to indicate that if it needs to be rescheduled. Right? If it needs to be rescheduled, you change it to an all-day activity. If he already rescheduled, let's say Steve does not require us to call ahead and reschedule. He already asked, hey, can we do this next week? Can we do it on the 25th at the same time? We say, sure, Steve, we'll go ahead and we'll change it to the 25th, and we'll go ahead and we'll move it ahead. And now we have that linked note that could tell us that we rescheduled it. We have the ability to reschedule this activity if the time is rescheduled during the cancellation, right? If the time is rescheduled during the cancellation, then we change the time, we save that activity, and now that activity is still on the calendar. We still have Steve's in-office visit, but we've rescheduled it. Now, again, sometimes there isn't a reschedule. Sometimes we don't know when the time is to reach out to them. In that case, I would mark it as an all day. And again, you can put notes in a number of different places here. I like using the link notes personally because they are date and time stamped, because they are user specific, so that if somebody called and talked to Steve, like maybe Steve didn't cancel with me, maybe he canceled with Jeremy, my support staff member. Jeremy could go in, date, time, and user lock this note in. However, there's a perfectly fine, if I were to say, let's say today's 2/20, Steve called in and canceled and rescheduled for the 25th. Like, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, the link notes do what this is designed to do. I would keep the description just as the description. I would keep it to describe, the activity itself. If you wanted to put in, an update to that particular activity, I almost always encourage linked notes. So if you're looking to record in the activity something that has happened, right? A cancellation, a no-show, an error, an update, whatever it may be, I'm not going to tell you not to use the description field because that works perfectly fine. I just think linked notes does it in a more specific type of way. All right. So again, we could, if this has not been rescheduled, we can mark this as an all-day item and reschedule it maybe on the week we need to reach out to them. And now it's an all-day event. It's a pending item. It's something that we need to act on later on. So again, there's a couple of ways that you could approach that. Number one, if you've rescheduled the activity, you save and clone, mark that activity as a canceled no-show, as we see here. And the whole reason we do this, rather than pushing items forward, is so that we have what I like to call, we have the receipts, right? Not only can I search for notes, but I can search for activities. You'll notice that when I mark that activity as complete, it retained the category of the activity in the note. The reason that I think you should mark canceled, no-shows, or reschedules as complete is so that you can record those things. If you just move an activity ahead and you don't do any recording of it, or even worse, if you delete an activity because somebody canceled, you have no true way of looking back and reporting on it. That's the whole point of why we're talking about what we are talking here. When an activity is rescheduled or canceled, it's important to maintain the original activity so there's a full history, right? So any workflows aren't disconnected. So any linked notes or linked documents stay the same. That's why we do that clone. And that's why we use that clone to record an activity as complete. Again, it's just a strategy, but I think it's very, very important. So what we've done is we've handled this canceled appointment. We put in a note, we marked our cloned activity as canceled no-show, and we marked it as complete. So our history is recorded. And that's the whole reason that we're talking about what we're talking about today, is so that our history is recorded. Now, the last thing that I want to show you all is reporting on that history. It's the key point here, why we're doing all of this, right? I've seen people, wouldn't it just be easier to move it forward? You're right. It would be easier just to take this activity, move it forward, not do any of the canceling, not do any of the cloning. It would be easier to do that. In the day-to-day, it would be easier and faster. But it really, puts us at a disadvantage when we want to report on those things. And in order to report on those things, we'll go into our reports here. And now we can look at two different reports. We can look at activity reports, or we can look at note reports. Remember, activities are something that has happened. We can report on open activities. We can report on completed activities. Notes or activities are something that will happen. Excuse me. Activities are scheduled on your calendar. They are usually in the future. When I mark an activity as complete, they go in as a note, and a note is something that has happened. I mixed up my examples there. I apologize. So activities are usually in the future. Notes are always in the past. So let's look at a notes report first and foremost. I can go into notes by contact, and I can filter these notes out. Let's say I want to look at this entire year. Now, you know what? Let's do 6 months. Let's do September 1st till now. It's not quite 6 months, but it's close. Now, I could report on note text. I can report on a specific contact name if I wanted to. I can change my servicing advisors, my writing advisors, my note types. This is the important one I'm looking for here, my note categories, because now I can look at every note that I have added in that is either a canceled no-show or a rescheduled, right? I can look at every note. Like if I want to take an internal look and see exactly what is happening here, let's apply this out. And so not only are we getting completed activities here, but we're also getting notes that we've added in as well. These are all canceled no-shows. A lot of them. Now, I'm taking a look. I want to see who did the most canceled no-shows here. It looks like it might be Clark Kent. So let's use another example. Let's say Clark Kent calls in. It's weird using Clark Kent, but let's say Clark Kent calls in and he's mad. He's had a rough week. And he's mad because, hey, I've been trying to get, you guys don't reach out to me. You don't schedule any appointments with me. I haven't seen you in a long time. What's the deal? Well, I can go into this report and I can filter this specifically to look for, number one, those items that I talked about. I want to look for my canceled no-show. I want to look for rescheduled, but I can also look specifically at Clark Kent's record. Okay, and let's jump this back even further. Let's see if I'll get more results here. If I go back more than a year and I apply these filters here. Okay, now I am looking at Clark Kent's record. I am looking for everything that is canceled, no-showed, rescheduled. I'm applying those particular filters. And again, the idea is that I can look and see, Clark, I totally understand that you're angry with us. However, you've canceled on us X amount of times. You've canceled on us, this number of times. You've canceled on us. Let me refresh this page here. For whatever reason, it's giving me a bit of an issue. I'm hoping my internet is doing okay. So let's backtrack a little bit here. Again, let's say Clark calls in, he's upset. You haven't been talking to me. You haven't been scheduling things with me. I, again, can go into my filter. I can look specifically for Clark Kent. I can look specifically for any canceled or no-showed or rescheduled notes that are in Clark Kent's record. It would help if I got the dates right. So we'll jump back. Like I said, let's jump back about a year. And let's do this again. And let's see how many canceled no-shows Clark Kent has. Either that or for, hey, I guess we're getting a little bit of an issue. Well, this is the fun part of live webinars. That's really interesting. I'm going to have to see why it's doing that, because my filters are accurate. I just refreshed the page. It gave me everything I wanted to. Okay. Let's continue on with my scenario here. The whole idea is that it gives you receipts. If somebody is canceling appointments on you, if somebody is rescheduling with you constantly or no showing by recording these items in the CRM, you have the ability to say, we've done our absolute best to reach out to you. We've done our absolute best to schedule things for you. Again, the whole idea is to identify where the issues may be coming from. Can you identify if it's your process that's the problem? Or is somebody just canceling on you all the time? You can also do this with activities as well, because remember, we are marking activities as complete. We are going in and marking these activities as complete and as canceled no-shows. So again, if I want to look back into the past, and I'm going to look back maybe not as far into the past, let's say August, I can fill out all these different filters, but the primary one I'm focusing on here is activity categories. Again, I want to look for everybody who's canceled. I want to look for everybody who's rescheduled. Okay. And I want to go ahead and I want to apply that filter. And that's going to give me everything that, oh, you know what? User error here. I was only looking for open activities. I want to look for activities that have been marked as complete. I want to apply that filter, and now we get our data here, and we get to see how many canceled no-shows that we have. We can go in and we can look at those linked notes. We can see if there's any linked notes into each one of these, and we can, again, identify what the issue is with our particular process. But this is the only way to do it. If you are marking activities as complete and you're not using a canceled no-show or you're not using a rescheduled, if you're deleting activities, which I hope you're not, or if you're just rolling activities forward, there's no real way to record canceled no-shows. There's no real way to record if somebody's canceling on you. So you got to take the step. You got to customize your lists inside of your activity and note categories. And then you got to use them. You got to apply them to your activities, to your notes. You got to mark things as complete so that you can have the power to report on it if somebody's canceling, if somebody's no-showing. And that's the whole point of all of this today. So again, take advantage of those items. Take advantage of your canceled appointments. Take a look at those items and make sure that you are doing everything in your disposal to not only record if things are being canceled or no-showed, but also look back and report on it. Be consistent, and this stuff is going to really pay off for you. I think it's great advice. I hope nobody's deleting their activities. But this is the best way to track those canceled appointments. Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.